Alright guys, so let's start Affinity Designer. Now in this video I will show you how I did this artwork inspired by the vaporwave genre. Now this tutorial is a long one, but it's worth it. So let's take a closer look. The cool thing I like about Affinity Designer is the ability to split the view between vector and pixel. You drag the slider to see the difference. I think this is very useful. In the pixel view, you can see the grainy effect much clearer. So let's make a new blank canvas, set it to landscape orientation, and then just hit OK. Tap on the rectangle tool twice to select the ellipse. Create a circle. Now let's draw a sun. You can place one finger on the screen while you draw and then drag the object to constrain the movement of circle. Now tap on the alignment tool to precisely align the circle in the center. Now let's fill the circle with a gradient fill. Tap on the fill tool. Now scroll through the option and find elliptical selected. You can tap on the handle on one end of the gradient line and you can drag it to move it like so. Now the other end of the gradient line is the anchor. You can move this to change the placement of the gradient. Now the other end, you can move it around the anchor. Now tap on the end of the line and select the color tool to change the color of one side of the gradient. Now I use a light yellow for the bottom and reddish pink for the top of the sun. You can also add another color between this gradient by tapping on this middle line. You can move this middle color as well to achieve the type of gradient that you like. You can also control precisely the color range directly from the gradient handles by tapping on this divider on this line. Now the fun part. Now we can add a brush stroke around the sun. Tap on the stroke option and then drag the slider to change the size of the width stroke. Now tap on the gradient tool and then tap on the stroke gradient. Change the gradient type from solid to radial. Drag the gradient handles to place them in roughly the same place as the ones we did for the circle. Change the color of the top gradient to the same pinkish red color. You can use the color eyedropper to pick the color. Tap on the color well next to the eyedropper to change the color. Adjust the handle so that the gradient of the stroke fits the color gradient of the circle. You can adjust the brush strokes to suit your style. Adjust the size of the width to make the stroke thicker or thinner. You can experiment with the pressure as well. So let's add a new vector layer. tap on the rectangle tool, and now let's draw a rectangle to create a sky for the background. Fill the sky about 2/3 of the canvas. Now let's remove the strokes on this rectangle. Change the gradient type to linear. And now let's change the color to a much darker one. Tap on the bottom gradient handle. Select the pinkish red color for the bottom of the gradient. Select the very dark color as the top gradient. Now notice that there is a third color in the middle. So I want you to tap on the middle circle and then tap on the trash can icon to delete it. So now let's make some fine adjustment to the sky gradient. Now let's create another vector layer to draw the ground. Tap on the rectangle tool, tap and drag across the screen to draw a rectangle. You remember to tap on the pointer tool to select the rectangle to move it. Change the color to a solid dark color. Tap and drag the ground layer to place it above the sun. Now change the name of the layer to ground. Adjust the gradient of the sun. Now let's switch to Vectornator Pro. Now the good thing about Vectornator Pro is that you can search for thousands of vector icons from Icons 8 from within the app. Now let's key in the word Tesla. You'll find a whole lot of vector icons of Tesla cars. Now select this colored version. Resize it by tapping on the proportional tool on the left, and then tap anywhere outside of the Tesla icon to resize. You can tap on the pointer tool to drag and move. All these other images you see here can be searched in this app. So let's type in trees to find the evergreen tree. Next, search for palm tree. And finally, search for skyscraper. Now that you have found all these, so let's export this as an SVG file. Now tap on Save on the top right corner, and then select Copy to Affinity Designer. Now notice that you cannot import because the document is open. So close the document, go back to the main gallery, and then return the Vectornator Pro to repeat the same steps. Alright, so now the SVG file is now open in Affinity Designer. Select the Tesla car and then copy it. Now go back to the gallery and open our previous work. Now let's create a new vector layer, tap on the paste button and paste the Tesla car. Resize the icon and place it in the center. Now we don't need the winged door, so select these from the layers panel and delete it. Now let's stretch out the icon to make the car look wider and lower. I'm going to move the layer containing the windscreen on top of the layer containing the body of the car. Now select both of these layers. Under the geometry section, select subtract. Now I'm cutting out the shape of the windscreen out of the main body. Next, select all these layers because we will be adding 2 color gradient to fill them. Select the gradient tool and select the linear option. Tap and drag to adjust the gradient position. Now the gradient is applied to all the layers as a whole, not singly. Instead of blue, select the recently used color gradient. Now let's adjust the gradient for each individual parts of the car. By doing this, we can make the car look a little bit more detailed. Instead of making it look like a solid chunk of object, adjusting the gradients of each of these parts make it look like it has texture. Well, let's make the light beam coming off from the headlights. Create a circle by selecting the rectangle tool, selecting the ellipse and drag on the screen. Next, add a radial gradient to it. Tap and drag downwards on the center of the circle. Select the bottom gradient handle and then change its opacity to 0. Remember to tap on the move tool to move anything on screen. Resize the light beam and then duplicate it and place the second light beam to the other headlight. Place another finger on the screen while you drag to constrain the movement. Now go back to the previous document to select and copy the palm tree. Now let's rename the layer containing the car to Tesla. Now this is good practice so that you can easily see in a glance what the layers contain. This is very important as you add more and more layers in your artwork. Now create a new layer so that we can paste the palm tree on it. I should have typed palm trees here instead of trees pine. Anyway, paste the palm tree here. Resize and move the tree. Select the tree trunk and then make it taller. Stretch it out. Double tap the tree trunk to edit the nodes. Now do some fine adjustments to the curves. Select one of the leaves and then duplicate it. Now rotate and move the newly duplicated leaf to another area. We're going to make the palm tree look more bushy at the top. Select all the leaves layer and then move it all above the tree trunk layer. Now change the fill color of all the selected layers to a dark color. Let's add brush strokes for all the leaves. Adjust the width as you see fit. Now select the brush type. I prefer diffused acrylic. Adjust the width and set the color of the brush stroke to a dark one. Notice that the palm tree now has some texture on it. Change the color of the tree trunk to a dark color. Resize the tree, move it to the side, duplicate the tree and make it smaller. Now let's flip the tree trunk horizontally to make the second tree a little bit different from the first one. Repeat the same steps for the third tree. Select all the trees and then duplicate them. Place them on the right side, flip them horizontally. Select all the trees and group these layers. Rename the layer as palm trees. Create a new vector layer and then copy the pine tree from the previous document. Go back to our working document and paste it in. Select the whole layer containing the tree and change the color to a dark one. Now let's duplicate one of the tiers and resize it. We're going to make the tree more detailed. After resizing, move the tiers as you see fit. Now we need to make the tree look taller and have more detailed outer edges. So repeat all the steps. Now as you can see here, I'm just speeding this video up to save time. Select all the tiers and apply brush strokes to them. Duplicate the pine tree and then resize the newly duplicated tree and place them next to the original. Group all the pine tree layers and then duplicate it once. Move it aside so that we can see it, then change the color similar to the sky. Use the color picker if you need to. I'm going to remove the brush strokes on these trees. Move this layer below the dark colored pine tree layer so that it appears behind the tree. Now adjust the positions of these two layers. Group these two layers together and then rename them. Duplicate the grouped pine trees layer and move it to the right. I'm going to duplicate and move several trees here. Now you don't have to do this. This is just my personal preference. And the last thing to copy is the skyscraper icon. Create a new layer and paste the skyscraper on this layer. Lock all the layers except the layer containing the skyscraper. Select all the little squares and delete them. Now you can skip this step if you like. Change the color of the building to a solid color, similar to the sky. Select part of the building and duplicate it. Move it next to the original building. Rename this layer to building. Arrange the buildings on screen. Place the layer below the trees. And duplicate the building layer a few times and arrange it like you see here. Finally, duplicate the building and resize it to make it bigger. Now change the color to a lighter hue. And then drag these layers below the rest of the other buildings. Now you can make adjustments to the positions and size as you like. What I'm showing here is my own preference. Select all the buildings layer and group them. Rename this group layer. Now we can unlock the other layers that we have locked previously. Select the ground layer and resize it. Make it shorter. Select all the other layers and reposition them lower. Select the Tesla car layer and then select the main body of the car. Let's adjust the gradient. Make the top color darker. Now it's more contrasting. Now let's adjust the position of the car. Have a part of the bottom wheel in the ground. At this point, the artwork is almost ready. You can skip this step because I'm just adjusting the size and positions of the building as I see fit. Now let's draw some birds, just simple strokes. Use the brush tool. Change the brush size if you need to. Now let's draw some birds, just simple strokes. And now the second last step. Create a new vector layer, create an ellipse, and fill it with a gradient similar to the headlight beam. Move the layer below the Tesla car layer, but make sure it's above the buildings. Now create a new layer and draw a rectangle covering the whole artwork. This is the last step. We will be adding a grainy look to the artwork. Now tap on the FX option and then tap on the Styles option in the menu. Select this solid blue color grainy image. Next, tap on the Layers button and then tap on the Layers option at the top. Change the pass-through to soft light. Now pinch to zoom in and see that the artwork looks grainy. And that's it.